This is Jason Newton, here on the Old Connecticut Path at Westford Hill in Ashford, Connecticut. Behind us here, we've just come up a portion of the Old Connecticut Path leading from Grass Hill, and our journey today is to attempt to rediscover the route that would be followed between here and Moose Meadow in Willington. Now, one of the problems that we have to sort out here today is that while we had a description with specific landmarks from Charles Chisholm, landmarks beyond here he did not provide in his narrative description. We only have the map drawn by David Chisholm. This area from Westford Hill on down to Moose Meadow has provided some challenges for me in searching for fragments of the path as mapped by David Chisholm. While I've walked the woods extensively, I have only found fragments of the path along the line that David Chisholm mapped. And in addition, there was a serious obstacle that I found in my exploration in a steep hill that would not be suitable for travel by large parties. As an alternative to the route mapped by David Chisholm, there is another way that leaves just below the Chisholm Farm here on Lips Road and heads around the hill and westward towards Willington and the Willimantic River. Following an old cart path through the woods and leading us down to ponds and beaver dams. After no more than a minute's walk along the cart path, we can see the first pond coming into view as we head downhill. After stepping across a small stream, we take a moment to enjoy the view of the pond as we travel along the cartway. Walking here along the pond is easily traveled and firm footing, and the view of the pond is impressive, and it's especially beautiful in the fall with the colors of the fall foliage. Along our way, we come to a place where there's evidence that the beavers are still present here in the woods on this stream with a dam that's holding back the waters of this small stream along the Old Connecticut Path. Now, dams like this and beaver ponds would be familiar sights to the travelers along the Old Connecticut Path in those early years, as beavers were here virtually everywhere in the woods and on each of the streams. And the impact of the beavers helped to shape the course of paths that would work their ways around the wetlands that the beaver dams and ponds would create. Although on occasion it was reported that the natives used the dams as a bridge to cross over rather than finding a way around, that they'd run across the dam as it was standing as a shortcut to get to the other side. Our cartway west crosses a small stream on an old box culvert that we can see here before us that's still in place from the early days when it was built here to carry travelers along the way. Our cartway leads into Old Hoey Road and heads west downhill towards Knowlton Brook. The small stream here on Hoey Road is still bridged by the box culvert that was built in the earliest years, probably going back to the 1700s and the earliest settlements in this area. A short walk downhill on the Old Hoey Road leads us here to the site of the Colonial Bridge that would have crossed Knowlton Brook. Sitting here on Knowlton Brook, we have a moment for quiet contemplation of the route that we've traveled along the Old Connecticut Path here in Ashford, and the path as it heads uphill on the Old Hoey Road, heading west towards Moose Meadow. As we climb up Old Hoey Road, we reach the Joshua Trust Flegal Farm Preserve and their fern glade trail leading off to Knowlton Brook. Moving beyond the trail to Fern Glade, Hoey Road travels through a woodland with open meadows bordering the trail. The route of travel along Old Hoey Road, crossing Knowlton Brook, leads us here to the entrance to the Flegal Farm woods. And as we turn, we enter the roadway that is still open for public travel. Walking further along Hoey Road, as we approach Zasek Road, we travel under old maple trees and between ancient stone walls. The ancient farmhouse and the expanse of meadow here at the top of the hill where we meet Zasek Road on the Old Connecticut Path. We can enjoy the view and the sound of the red-winged blackbirds as they're flying in the field. We've reached the point that is the end of the line on David Chisholm's map here at the junction of Hoey and Seacar Roads in Ashford. We're unable to track back portions of the route as he mapped it, but this is a definite ending point that was clear on his map. It leaves open the question of where would the trail go from here on its way west to the Willimantic River. And so in looking at old maps, there is a solution for us in the Old Hoey Road that is no longer open for public travel, and the landowners have posted so we can't travel over this particular portion, continues on west towards Moose Meadow, and we'll try to pick it up further down so we can complete our journey today. We've been able to pick up Hoey Road beyond the area that was closed to the public, and we continue our journey west towards Lustig Road and the Old Hoey Road, and we can see ancient stone walls lining both sides as the pathway rolls uphill here before we start down on our final descent. Now, one of the features of this highway as the road takes the highlands to cross Windham County is that we have not had a stream crossing since Knowlton Brook. The roadway and path are high, dry, and firm and follow the contours of the land here. And as we come over the crest and back into the shade here, we begin the descent on down to Moose Meadow, so we can enjoy the ease of travel from here forward. Hoey Road meets with Lustig Road and crosses it as we head west on downhill to Willington and the Fenton River and Moose Meadow. The roadway here has been out of use for many years, but as we look at the banks that extend up 5 to 6 feet above the roadbed, we can tell that there's been many decades or centuries of use on this roadway that have worn the ground down to this current level. Our journey is bringing us here to the boundary of Ashford on this side of the marker, and as we come around we'll see the W for Willington. And one of the special things about this area is that the people of Willington have set this whole area aside as conservation land for the enjoyment of the people who come here to visit the woodland, and as a place that preserves this portion of the Old Connecticut Path as it travels through it. The roadway through this conservation land provides an opportunity to walk in the footsteps of the early pioneers who walked along the Old Connecticut Path. And for visitors today, the park here at Ruby-Fenton Park offers trails that lead into the woods and a self-guided natural history tour of the landscape. Our journey on the Old Connecticut Path today began at Westford Hill with the goal of reaching Moose Meadow. Here in the conservation area in Willington, we're at Taylor Pond, and as we look out across the pond, we can see why the area earned its name as Moose Meadow. For here, along the shores of the pond, we could easily imagine the moose coming from the woods to graze in the grasses here along the shoreline. Our journey along the Old Connecticut Path ends today here at the Fenton River. Our journey today from Westford Hill to Moose Meadow here in Willington provided us an opportunity to explore the woods, to attempt to rediscover the path as it was mapped by David Chisholm. Although we were only able to find fragments of the path as it was mapped by David Chisholm, we were able to discover and follow a path that would be easier and more likely to be in use over the long period of colonial settlement, leading from Westford Hill across to the Fenton River here in Moose Meadow. Portions of the Old Connecticut Path that we've followed continue to be open for public use and exploration here in Ashford and in Willington. These places include the Joshua Trust Preserve at Flegal Farm in Ashford and the Fenton Ruby Park and conservation lands here in Willington. These places provide a rare opportunity to get out and walk and explore and actually walk in places that you're following the footsteps of those early pioneers who came along the Connecticut Path. For more information on how you can have opportunity to come and enjoy the Connecticut Path and the special places here in Ashford and Willington, please visit the Old Connecticut Path website for more information and links that will help you find the way to this wonderful place.